Good evening, everybody. It's 7:00 p.m. and welcome to the Township Mapleton Council meeting for the August the 8th. It's the only one council meeting that we have in August. And we do welcome you here. We do have one presentation to give tonight. We have a delegation or two to go through. And at this time, we'll just ask if you're able to please stand and rise for O Canada. First up on the agenda, we do have a bursary presentation to Joel Rumpf. Joel is the gold medal jumper, I guess. High jump, Joel, at OFSA track and field. Joel came in first place and beat some records. Your own record? Yeah. I thought it was your own record, Joel. I'm just going to have you come up for front, Joel. I do have this, but congratulations to Joel Rumpf on his OFSA track and field gold medal. See you at the ice rink. Take care. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, move right along the confirmation of minutes. Item 4.1 moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on July 11th, 2023 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda. Any questions, alterations? All in favor? It's carried. There's no matters arising from the minutes. Matters under the Planning Act. And we get to item number 7, which is delegations. First up, we have 7.1 Mapleton Chamber of Commerce. Christian and John are here to speak. I don't know which one or both of you are speaking, but please take the podium, push the button so that your red light comes on.
All right. Well, thanks for giving us the opportunity to share with you. The Mapleton Chamber of Commerce is really embracing the idea of community and bringing businesses together and trying to help a small business, which is a big backbone really of our economy, helping business to thrive. And so part of that really is having events that bring businesses together and networking and trying to figure out how we can just having conversation. And so we're asking for a bit of money to help us fund some events to make that possible and to really contribute in a vibrant way to the furtherance of this community.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, thank you for your time and this opportunity. If you go to the next slide, it has been practice in the past that the township has made available funds to the Mapleton Chamber of Commerce, which we have, at least in my tenure and certainly through COVID, have not taken advantage of. And it certainly behooves us to make the most of our opportunities by working with the township to endeavor to create more opportunities for local businesses and create more spaces like these ones here, our ice cream social, our networking event. And we do also have a mayor's breakfast planned. Don't let that persuade you. For now, I believe October. We also have boosted our social media efforts. We've been spending time highlighting local businesses, also trying to get a little more eye on getting more members and reaching out to the agricultural community. Thank you. Sorry, there's just more social media there. And some of the business we've highlighted. And more of our engagement. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you both. Questions from members of council then? To the chamber? Go ahead, Mr. Councilor Tamlin.
Thank you, through your mayor. And not so much a question, but just to recognize the amount of work that you've been doing lately. And it's really, really visible on social media. And for someone who lives locally, to see people highlighted and celebrated as well, allows us to understand who's there, who's the, you know, who to go to, and just, yeah, it was kind of a very personal approach to meeting other businesses in the community. So yeah, applaud you for that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tamlin.
Thank you, Councillor Ottens.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. You mentioned two things. You mentioned funding and you mentioned future events. Could you maybe elaborate on those two things?
Well, at this point, with the budget that is available to us, we are trying to do smaller events. We found that our members are looking forward to networking above all else. So in June, we did the ice cream social, which took place at a local business, one of our members, A La Mode, which provided members a chance to meet each other and, you know, get to know the Chamber of Commerce and also meet other members. We also have an educational aspect, which more so relates to, in our last event, we did an excellent event at the first net zero home built in Mapleton, which gave a lot of people an opportunity to come out, learn about net zero, learn about green living or greener living, which we found very beneficial. It gave it that interesting aspect, plus also a chance to network as well. These are not very expensive events, obviously, but, you know, just for like food and drink and things like that to have, and any other incidental costs that may occur. This is why we're looking for the stipend to help us out.
Thank you. Further questions, comments? Go ahead.
Can I just add to that? You know, there are, what I see is that there's different people or groups of people in Mapleton that are interested in kind of doing the same thing. And so I had a discussion last week with somebody that was asking if there was a way for them to interface with the chamber to kind of promote, promote community, and business really is part of the community, right? So it's, I mean, it's in a way it seems kind of fuzzy, but I know that we're really desiring to make a positive impact for the community and not just for business.
Thank you, John, for that follow-up. Yeah, it's very important, the community aspect. I know, being a former business person, the need for the community to have business in the community. Otherwise, the community really doesn't grow if you don't have those. And that's definitely needed in our communities. Current business to stay going, and more businesses to come to the community. And with a thriving chamber, of course, we would get that. The current businesses will maintain, and it will invite other businesses to come to Mapleton. Anything, Mr. Barron? Yeah, go ahead.
Through your worship, and maybe a little bit of history for our new council members. So originally, when I first joined, the ask that you're referring to was council would decide to support the chamber for $2,000 per year. With the caveat being, there was an update and there was a presentation of financial statements. And, you know, obviously COVID hit and things like that. We just never got back there. So if you remember when we chatted, encouraged you to do that. So I think this is great. And I just want to make sure the council understood that was a process prior to you two being on board, is where it was a $2,000 grant to the chamber directly, but with the caveat of presentation on updates and the financial statements of the previous year.
Yes, sir, that's understood. Our financials are in order and we would be available to give you a presentation or update at a later date. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Any further questions or comments from council? Mr. Councilor Chamberlain?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Through these networking events, I mean, both of you are part of the conversations that happen there. But what kind of discussions come up? What kind of beneficial relationships? What kind of needs? Is there any common ground that's being found that kind of the business community is missing or needing in these networking events?
Sure, go ahead.
You know, networking is really kind of in a way specific to the people that are having conversation. But I can tell you that you know, one of the newer members is Sean's Farm Equipment, and they you know, they are really embracing the idea of being part of the net of the chamber, because for the same reasons that all of us are involved in, is to be community minded, to be locally business minded, and to make a positive contribution. It's not just about you know how, you know, like I'm a realtor, so networking is an important part of being a real estate agent. But I don't look at it like I'm going to have a conversation with this person so that I can hopefully get a listing or hopefully get a sale. I look at it as an opportunity to get to know somebody and to find out what it is that they're interested in, find out what their needs are. And, you know, lots of times it has nothing to do with real estate, but you kind of make a connection. You know, oh, well, you should have a conversation with so-and-so. Let me introduce you to that person. Or, and that's just coming out of a mindset or a space of goodwill. And I think that those types of interactions, the more we have them, you can't just have them once a year or twice a year and figure that you're going to create some kind of cohesion. You got to have regular meetings and regular opportunities for people to network and to get together. And I think that a lot of times, if you get a critical mass of that happening, then the sum will be more, or you know, the total will be more than the sum of the parts. So I don't know if that explains it, but
Yeah, you were talking about building relationships, right? Not just networking, you're building relationships with other people, which it goes a long way.
it does.
And especially when you're looking, if something were to happen, you'd have that relationship support, which is also very important to have in business.
Yeah, like if COVID taught us anything, is that we need each other, right? Like,
Absolutely. Anything further from council? Thank you both for coming. I do
Thank
have a
you.
resolution here, moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information a delegation of Mapleton Chamber of Commerce represented by Christian Giffen and John Zwart regarding the chamber's efforts to provide networking opportunities, meet and greets, educational opportunities, and organizing the mayor's breakfast. That is the resolution. Any questions or comments on that? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you both. Move right along. We have item 8.1, which is about the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. You have your minutes in the agenda. We also have with us Heather Small to answer any questions. If you have any questions, or Heather, I don't know if you want to actually make any statements at all while you're here. You can, please take the podium. Yep, please then. Go ahead, please. Yeah, absolutely. No, you know what? If we can hear something about what's going on, that's great. Thank you.
So as he already shared it, my name is Heather and I'm actually a committee member of the Advisory Accessibility Committee known as the ACC here. I am actually a Mapleton resident and I have been since 2014. And I've been a part of the Accessibility Committee since probably about a year and a half now. As many as you may know, the ACC was first created under the Ontario Disabilities Act of 2001, also known as the ODA. And continued under the Accessibility for Ontarians with the Disabilities Act of 2005, also known as the AODA. Both acts enable 2 or more municipalities to work together and establish a joint AAC instead of each municipality establishing their own. Following these well-established patterns in the Wellington of joining together to meet our mutual obligations, the joint ACC was formed under the ODA of 2001. Within the joining of each municipality, this will allow each municipality to have equal representation within the committee. Although the committee is established and supported by all municipalities, Wellington County supports it financially, as well as encourages members of their local staff to attend to ensure that they're involved. This committee is established by a 12-member committee that represents each municipality that is located within Wellington County. The AODA requires that a majority of the committee members are persons with disabilities. However, small amount of members with different supports and skills advocate for persons with disabilities. As a committee, our values and main goals are advertising all member municipal councils of the identification, removal, and prevention of barriers in such things as county policies, services, and buildings, as well as serves as a resource for the municipal staff from all municipalities represented by the committee. For myself, I am proud that I am currently the representative from the municipality of Mapleton, as I feel that my professional background has shaped me for a strong advocate for this committee. I have over 12 years of experience working with individuals with disabilities and over 3 years of experience in practicing as a community social worker in Wellington and Dufferin County. With these experiences, it has shaped me to have a supportive lens for the community from a community perspective and allows me to identify and bring forward different suggestions and supports, not only within Mapleton, but in the county as a whole. Currently, one of my main suggestions that is going to be brought forward within the ACC is the lack of accessibility transportation for individuals with disabilities in our county. Currently, we only have 3 accessible vans that are across the municipality in total, 1 through the VON and 2 through Ridewell. Thankfully, we do have these resources within our county. However, as you can imagine, with the limitations within the transportation, it creates a lot of barriers for individuals in our communities, especially ones that want to join committees such as the one that I'm on. Another perspective in which I'm going to be bringing forward is a need for additional supports and limiting the barriers of accessibility within the county housing buildings. At this current time, many of our residents in housing are needing modifications and supports within their units as their needs change and however, how they access the need to provide the documentation to do so. For example, if an individual is needing a ramp within or outside their unit, they are required to provide a signed letter from their physician, meaning that they're needing to see their general practitioner, pay for the forms, provide them back to the county and hope that they are approved. Currently, this process can take multiple weeks, if not months, which leaves our residents in our community isolated within their units, creating more barriers within their lives. And on top of that, it also creates financial hardships, financial stressors within transportation and barriers that also take place within their personal lives. These are just a few examples of the different barriers in which I've identified so far. However, there are much more that I would like to bring to the table. With the advocacy and proper supports identified through the barriers, it creates opportunities for the county and the communities to work together and to create change for everyone. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you, Heather, for that update. And what's on your mind? Certainly the issue with ramps taking that much time and causing that much financial and just pain for that person to have to jump through these hoops in order to get a ramp so they can get in and out of their unit. I agree. Should be streamlined a little bit.
Yeah, there's one of the many examples that I can specifically there are some processes that potentially revamp the office.
Thank you. Questions from members of council then to Heather or anything on the report that you have in your agenda? Councillor Tamlin.
One question that was in the minutes, Heather. So through your mayor, when it was said, there was the accessible fund incentive program that was available for over a period of 3 years, providing $10,000 to a community, to a township for any kind of improvements that can be made. And it said on the list there that Mapleton wasn't eligible, but the other municipality, many of them were. So did we receive that already then?
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Barron to answer that question for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Hang on, Heather.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So firstly, the two desks that you see, one here and then just one at the front desk. Originally, about 4 years ago, we used some funding to create those as fully accessible desks. And then just recently, there was an option to take 3 years worth of funding all up front, which we're going to use for the reno in the basement to make sure it's completely accessible for anybody. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much, Heather, for coming tonight. Resolution item 8.1, moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the minutes of the County of Wellington Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting held on May 4th, 2023, and that council receive for information the report 2023 Joint ACC composition, and further that council receive for information and thank Mapleton's Joint ACC member Heather Small for her verbal update on the present situation regarding the county's accessibility gaps. Any other comments? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Heather. Moving right along, we do have item 9.1, which is the building department report that you have in front of you. Resolution moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township of Mapleton Council received Building Department Report BD 2023-08 dated August 8, 2023 regarding July month end and year to date. Any questions or comments on that report? All in favor? It's carried. Move on to item number 9.2. The clerk's report. This is moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Tamlin. Township of Mapleton Council received for information clerk's report CL 2022-12 regarding the Drayton Mapleton Agricultural Society noise exemption request for the 2023 edition of the Drayton Fair to be held at the Drayton Agricultural Fairgrounds and the Township of Mapleton property at 49 Elm Street. And that council approved the request as follows: Friday, August 11th, 2023, 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. Saturday. Saturday, August 12th, 2023, 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday. And Sunday, August 13th, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And further that the applicants submit to the township the following: by August 3rd, 2023, a $2 million certificate of insurance naming the Township of Mapleton additionally insured. And by August 3rd, 2023, confirmation in writing that neighbors have been advised of the upcoming event. Questions, comments? Councillor Ottens?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just curiosity question. If it goes beyond 1 a.m., which it typically does, what's the protocol there? It's just, oh, well. I know in Palmerston, it went till 5 a.m. A few weeks ago.
If you remember, Councillor Ottens, a few years ago, we had this issue come up that it went past, and then Mr. Barron had conversations. I think Mr. Clerk may have conversations with them, and the last 2 years it didn't go past that number. We haven't had that issue. And I'm sure that staff here have made it known to them not to go past the curfew hours. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Martin?
Thank you. Through you to perhaps the clerk, this August 3rd deadline, submissions have already passed. So we just confirming that we do have that certificate of insurance and that notification that the neighbors have all been given the heads up on this. I'm assuming that everyone knows the fair is this weekend, and that there's a tractor pull, but just, is the Ag Society compliant with these conditions?
Through your worship, yes, they submitted a couple weeks ago the certificate of insurance, and I've been back and forth with our lead this afternoon, in fact, and we're just waiting for approval. And as soon as we get that, should be here tomorrow to pick up the documents to pass on to the neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Any other follow-up questions? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Move on to item 9.2.2. The parking control bylaw. Turn that over to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing much further to add. This is a bylaw we obviously share county-wide. It's quite important to Center Wellington, less so here in Mapleton. And it's just first step in the process of getting a joint bylaw approved.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This is moved by Councillor Ottens and second by Councillor Tamlin, that Township Mapleton Council received for information clerk's report CL 2023-11 regarding parking control, and that parking bylaw 5000-05 be repealed and replaced with draft bylaw 6000-23 substantially in the form attached, effective November 1st, 2023. And further, that the increased set fines and short form wordings be filed with the Ministry of Attorney General. Any questions or comments on this report? Seeing none? Oh, you do? Councillor Tamlin?
Yeah. So it's the three of them. I'm not sure who to address this to. Maybe, the county enforces this, right? So I can see the issues in Center Wellington. I see they have parking enforcement officers in Aurora there because there's parking everywhere. Is there any parking enforcement that happens within Mapleton? And are there any issues regarding like the theater parking or anything like that we have to deal with?
Parking enforcement generally here is done by the OPP, but I'll turn it over to the clerk for any further comments.
Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there definitely could be, but here would be with regard to snow removal. But the residents here, according to the roads foreman, then the moment they hear the front end loader coming, they simply leave the residents and move their vehicles, and they haven't issued a ticket for years, as far as I know.
And Councillor Tamlin and the rest of council, our new bylaw officer can also do parking enforcement if there's a complaint for it. Any further comments or questions? Then all those in favor? It's carried. Next item up is 9.2.3 CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund, not fun, as you might see in your report, a large urban stream. And Jonathan Lampman, we have here. John, thank you very much. We turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, here tonight to basically explain the draft initiatives, the action plan, to table in front of you to answer any questions that you may have associated with the initiatives. Any questions that you have with the HAF, which is the Housing Accelerator Fund, so on and so forth. I think to start, we'll just kind of walk through the 11 that we are putting in front of you tonight. And then open to questions as we go through or take them at the end, either way. So attached to the report that the CAO provided you are 11 initiatives. So in consultation with Colliers and staff, we've drafted 11 initiatives. The Township of Mapleton, due to the 2021 census population, requires 7 initiatives in order to fulfill the application. In consultation with CMHC, the local rep that's been helping us through the process, they've recommended that, yes, 7 is the minimum, but 8 or 9 is probably more advisable. In that, if the underwriting at CMHC doesn't align with the initiative and the number of units that we forecast, should this go through, that at least there's a fallback initiative or 2. So on that, the first initiative that was brought forth by staff, and what you'll see in the left column is the initiative that staff brought forth. In the right column is the link to the CMHC initiatives. There's 25 of them, and we're making the link. So first is comprehensive zoning bylaw review to remove any potential barriers and or create zoning that is encompassing and as of right zoning. This ties to initiative 18, which is implementing inclusionary zoning, direct link. I can open the floor on each. Is that probably best?
Yeah, it'd be better if we want
Yeah.
to do one at a time, and that's any questions coming up. So after any questions right now for council on the first one? Go ahead.
Again, and what you'll see the full-fledged out initiative on the right-hand side. It will be more, it'll have more information to it. It doesn't mean that we need to hit everything that's in that initiative. The more we do, the better off the initiative is. But having a piece of it in what we're proposing works as well. Again, these have all been vetted by CMHC. The second initiative, land use policies and regulations to be changed to increase flexibility and include permissions for accessory dwellings. ADUs, ARUs is what these are, and reduce development charges for additional units. The initiative encouraging accessory dwelling units, a second smaller unit on the same property as a primary unit, promoting infill, adding new units to existing communities. That's the link. The second that I read is the CMHC initiative. Open the floor to questions. Fair. Okay, initiative 3. As part of intensification and greenfield density target strategy, the County of Wellington currently has current intensification target of 20%. It includes forms of intensification are infilling development of existing vacant lands and built up area. Drayton and Moorfield have been identified as urban areas with municipal service to promote density targets. The town of Mapleton intensification strategy built by the county and Wellington to promote. This links to CMHC initiative 5, promoting infill developments. Again, the wording is very similar. Adding new units to existing communities with increased housing density, variety of unit types, duplexes, secondary units, so on and so forth. Open the floor to questions. Your fourth initiative is work with builders and tradespeople to create a streamlined pre-approval system for building permits. Examine options to advance lean management concepts or other similar methodology aimed at continuous improvement and streamlining processes. This comes from your, I believe, in work strategic plan, some of that wording. The initiative is implementing new and enhanced processes and systems such as case management, e-permitting, land and building modeling. Open the floor to questions. Okay. Initiative 5, set up promotion day with developers, modular home, tiny home developments. This initiative is encouraging alternative forms of housing construction such as modular housing, manufactured and pre-manufactured housing. Direct link. Open the floor to questions. Okay. Number 6 is your urban boundary expansion. Ensure capital planning will accommodate growth of the development. This initiative is updating infrastructure planning to align with official community plans, growth targets, and housing needs assessment. On the housing needs assessment piece, as part of this, should Mapleton be successful in receiving the funding, they have to do a housing needs assessment within the first 2 years of the funding. If you don't already have one. I don't believe there is one, so you would have to do one. Any questions on number 6? Number 7, additional planning staff to reduce wait times to allow the creation and promotion of new housing units. This aligns with number 22 from the CMHC, which is implementing changes to decision-making such as delegating development approval authority to municipal staff based on established thresholds or parameters. I'll open the floor. Again, language is not always verbatim in the CMHC initiative. We will flesh out the background to the initiative in the physical application, should council decide to proceed tonight. Number 8, discount prorate development charge fees based on square footage to promote more attainable housing. This is initiative 12, which is implementing incentives costing for fee structures, density, housing to encourage such things as affordable housing and conventions from non-residential to residential. I will note that this is the first time anybody from CMHC has seen this initiative. It came from Mapleton staff and it came from Mapleton's clerk and is looked on favorably upon CMHC. It's the first time they've heard of it. Any questions in regard to number 8? Number 9, create a partnership with county to leverage township land and create rent geared to income units or tiny homes. Town of Mapleton housing strategy includes targets and processes in collaboration with the county. This is initiative 24 from CMHC, which is updating infrastructure planning to align with official community plans, growth targets, housing needs assessments. Open the floor to any questions on in regards to initiative 9. Okay. Number 10. Evaluate the notion of dedicated levy to address capital financial requirements. This is initiative 10, ensuring that development and amenity charges fees that cover necessary infrastructure to support new housing and amenities such as libraries and recreation centers and adjacent to the communities where development is occurring are clear, transparent, and predetermined, not subject to negotiation. Open the floor to initiative 10. Okay, initiative 11, creating a partnership with the county to leverage township land and create rental homes geared to income units or tiny homes. This is initiative 6, which is implementing rental only zoning. That's what we've classified this under. I'll open the floor to any questions in regards to initiative 11.
I prefer to lull you into a false sense of security as you're running through these initiatives, and I'll just tackle all 3 at once. Thank you for the work that got put in these initiatives. I think they're great. I do think whittling down a few would be a great idea. And the reason I suggest it is, the last initiative number 11 and initiative number 9, the first part, like, so item 12 and item 15, the county already looks after social services and attainable housing. And I think they do a great job. This is certainly no reflection on that particular sector. I just, we start double dipping, then all of a sudden our Mapleton residents are going to be paying twice for the same type of housing. So I think, the idea is great. But I think the county's doing it already, and I'm not sure I see a real need for creating an additional partnership on top. These one-offs, we've had conversations in the past. But I think that particular, like whether it's rent geared to income or that's something that's already being utilized by the county. So I would like to, I think on initiative 9, leaving bullet 13 in there is great. A housing strategy, we could include that as part of the possibly reduced, DCs, maybe make it attractive that way. And then lastly, a dedicated levy. Anybody that's been here recently knows I detest the idea of a dedicated levy. I think it's a scam. It's just it's political semantics. I think we already have a clear, transparent, and predetermined where the funds are going simply through our budget process. Everyone knows where the funds are going. So I think that's just a way of raising taxes and an additional 2%. We already do that through our budget process. And if we're not being transparent, that's on us. I don't think we need a dedicated levy on top. Just a one-off, a personal opinion. Until a dedicated capital levy is something that's endorsed by council, I don't really want to see it baked into other sorts of initiatives, but I love this overall plan. I think it's great. There's a lot of great ideas. And if we're looking at 7, 8, or 9 type of initiatives versus the 11 are there, I would look at those last 3, but otherwise I like it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin, and I will touch on a couple of these for you. Item number 10, evaluate the notion of a dedicated levy. It's evaluate the notion, not do one. And that is part of our strategic plan, which we have in a strategic plan for evaluate that. as which we agreed to as council to have in our strategic plan. That's why it's in here, because it's something we could pass on, that we're looking at that as well. As in create a partnership with the county to leverage township land, or the other one, create a partnership with the county to leverage township land and create rent security income, tiny homes, things like that. Leveraging with the county or partnering with the county doesn't always mean that the county's doing it or the township's doing it. There are some private entities out there that are doing these same things that also need support, not financial support, but other kind of supports through the county and through the township to get them going. So by leaving these in here, that opens it up for any other development, any other developer that wants to put in tiny homes or wants to put in rent geared to income without going to the taxpayer looking for funding. That's allowed to be in there because there's funding out there through the province, the federal government for this stuff as well. So if we take it out completely, then we're saying to any private entity or not-for-profit group, we're not interested. And I don't think we want to put that message out there. I think we want to keep something like that in there so that we are open to any kinds of developments in our community. Do you want to weigh in on?
Through the mayor to the councillor, on the same wavelength as the mayor, the partnership to leverage the land and rent to geared, right? CMHC, the Housing Accelerator Fund, I'm confident to say, is to compel units as fast as possible. Aligning the targets and the forecasted numbers, which should this go through tonight, is the next step in this. So we have to forecast the units. The funding is linked to the initiative in that we will forecast, hypothetically, number 9 being in, we will forecast a number of units that Mapleton will achieve within the next 3 years associated with that. Based on the way the funding breaks out, if you recall the council handout sheet that was created, there's a base funding and then there's a top up for affordable. When you can top up for affordable, it helps the municipality receive more funding. Without saying anything that CMHC would slap me on the hand for, this is a broad spectrum initiative, and where the funds go must support it in some way, shape, or form. But it's not to say that it's specifically tied to that initiative. It's not to say that the municipality will be forced to sell land for $1. It's not to say that you have to do that with it. It's to forecast units and create a process that is sustainable for the municipality over time. Should partnerships, third parties, so on and so forth, move into the municipality, you have a process in place. The permit comes quicker than it would have come prior to the Housing Accelerator Fund.
Thank you.
Jessica.
Other questions? Any comments? All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Resolution I have in front of me here is 9.2.3, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Tamlin. That Township of Mapleton Council received information CAO report CL 2023-10 dated August 8th, 2023 regarding the CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund Large Urban Stream. And that council endorsed the initiatives described in the presentation by Jonathan Lampman, Senior Project Manager, Infrastructure Services. And that council direct the mayor, clerk, and treasurer to sign any documents required to submit the completed application on or before August 18th, 2023. Anything further from council? Councilor Martin.
I'd like to propose an amendment that number 10 and number 11 be removed.
Councilor Martin has proposed an amendment that number 10 and 11 be removed. Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Do we have a seconder for that amendment? We have no seconder, Councilor Martin. Any further questions, comments? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Next, we have 9.3.1, which is moved by Councillor Reed, second by Councillor Martin, that Township of Mapleton Council received finance report FIN 2023-19 dated August 8th, 2023 regarding work undertaken for the township's facility condition assessments as information.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson and council members. I'm Aman. I joined Mapleton as asset management manager in April of this year. And for this report, this is actually, as council knows, that every municipality in Ontario is supposed to have an asset management plan for all of its municipal assets. By July 1st, 2024. We engaged Roth IMS to complete a comprehensive condition assessments on our 35 buildings that township oversees and maintains. So we got those reports back from IMS. So this report is basically, first of all, we would like to highlight the methodology that we follow for the condition assessments. So we follow a uniform second categorizations that, as you can see in this picture, it divides all the components of buildings as a substructure, which would be foundations and basement, as a shell, which would include all the walls, doors, all the services or interiors like stairs that we would have, any mechanical or electrical plumbing, the services that we have, any kind of special construction, which would be roadways, parking, all sort of that. This uniform at second level basically creates a parent-child relationship in all the building components that tells us what would be the replacement cost for all the assets that we own for the facilities. The original reports are very voluminous in nature. We have 35 reports for all, that includes all the 1100 components. Some of the interesting summary that we have is the replacement value for all the facilities that Mapleton owns is $66 million in 2023. The report also includes a detailed assessment, description, and all the condition narratives. What kind of condition is it in, good, bad, or poor? And the graph here, it shows all the replacement value of all the services that Mapleton offers, which includes the recreation and cultural services, which is includes State and Festival Theater and PMD Arena. The transportation services includes the workshops. The environmental services include the water treatment plants and the fire halls, and the general government includes the administrative hall. On a bigger scale, over the next 5 years, Roth IMS is recommending a capital works of about $4 million over the facilities. That's their recommendation. Some of the highlights would be, for example, in PMD Arena, we have to replace the whole arena, we would need $16 million in 2023, which comes up to be an annual requirement of $456,000. And based on most of it, the big chunk of it would go to reconstruction of the parking lot in the arena and replacement of some ice rink equipments. A key finding, an interesting finding, would be that the hydro building structure that Mapleton owns at 37 Adam Brown Street in Murrayfield, it was assessed to be in poor condition with immediate replacement recommended in 2024. Staff is recommending that building should be demolished as it is an insurance liability and is not being utilized at present. Overall, the financial impact, according to Roth IMS, would be that to replace all these facilities, we need an annual requirement of $1.7 million to replace all the assets. And at present, the buildings have a useful life of 38 years approximately. This would have implications on a capital budget planning. That's all. Thank you. I'm here if you guys have any questions.
Thank you. Quite the extensive report. We do thank you for that report, and certainly look at the annual requirement of 1.755 million for your facilities. We also know that we're behind the 8 ball when it comes to our roads and bridges and other infrastructure. So this just adds to that pain that we know is real. Questions from members of council? Very good report, and thank you for helping us out to understand it. Resolution 9.3.1, as I read. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Next that we have is 9.4. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reed, that Council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B 53/23 as presented on lands described as part lot 19, concession 3, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes, that payment be made of a fee of $355 for a letter of clearance, that a copy of the deposit reference plan be submitted to the township, and further that council authorizes the planning and development manager to file with the secretary treasurer of the planning and land division committee at the county of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Any questions on this? Linda is here. If you have any questions, she can answer them. Then I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. The next item up, 9.4.2, moved by Councillor Reed, second by Councillor Martin, that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information planning report for zoning application ZBA 2023-05, part lot 2 and 3, concession 11, 7937 Wellington Road 8. And further that council consider the attached draft bylaw to allow a permanent seasonal ice rink on the subject land, subject to the conditions stated in the bylaw. Linda, any comments on this one?
Yes, just wanted to mention, the change rooms that are, affiliated with this rink. There was a lot of discussion back and forth between planning and the building department, as well as Mr. Weber, who is here in attendance, with respect to the size. Building and planning felt that 1,100 square feet was sufficient, but Mr. Weber expressed an interest in going a bit larger. So it's my understanding that he is here tonight as a delegation to address council on that, and get some feedback on whether council would be supportive of a bit bigger size. So I'm not sure if Mr. Weaver's wants to speak, but I wanted to make sure that council was aware that he did want to see a bigger change room.
Mr. Weaver?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Anybody thinking about hockey right now? Oh, my brain has been spinning the last while. Just here, I guess, on open for discussion on our change room. As far as when we applied for the rink, as far as the change rooms, I hadn't put a lot of thought into it. I have had some discussion with Chief Building Official and Linda Redman. And we were just curious, I guess, as far as the size goes. I'm okay with having the 1,100 square feet. As far as to build a building up to for public assembly, we could go up to 2,000. 2,000, I believe. But I don't really feel that's necessary at this point. However, I guess I had always just was envisioning it in as far as part of our agricultural shop we were going to build this summer. If we could put a wall through the middle, whether portable or permanent, if we would be allowed to just change in the corner of this. If we need to, and then as down the road, if this thing grows, if we could put a kind of a phase 2 when we go permanent, and then do all the requirements for the building. I just did a bit of math as far as say right now they're doing about 10 games a year, give or take, and poor years 7, good years 14. If we do 10 games a year, let's just stretch it, take it up to 30 games a year. If we would, if the members are there, the hockey players are there, if they spend half an hour before and after to change, that's 30 hours out of the year that they're going to be in this change room. So as far as having a building for either you got to go egg shop or got to go assembly occupancy, just wondering if there could be a bit of a, I guess, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. So, council, you have, on the bylaw, it specifically says on there 1,100 square feet, which shall include but not limited to washrooms, mechanical room, storage area, et cetera. And you're asking for it to be larger, correct? Than 1,100?
If it's an option, yes.
What's council's thoughts? Does council wish to go beyond 1,100? Councilor Ottens.
The understanding is that the building that you're talking about wouldn't just be a change room, it would be a farm shop that has an area for changing into like putting the skates on basically, right? Just during the winter time, and the rest of the time it would be utilized as a shop for your farm. So you're not building specifically just a skating room, you're building a shop that happens to have a skating corner. And that's why you want it bigger?
Yeah, if it's an option, just putting on money we're spending and doing it on a non-profit type of deal.
Anything further from council? Any other questions? Councilor Martin?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Linda. So I'm assuming the 1,100 square feet comes from a policy somewhere, or it's the number is driven, or Michelle, it comes from somewhere, correct? Based on, can you enlighten us a little bit where that number comes from?
That number comes from the intent behind the request. So the request was for a seasonal ice rink that hosted a few games a week. And it was small in scale. So, it's twofold. One is from a planning perspective for size and scale, we felt that 1,100 square feet was adequate for 2 teams of hockey players. I mean, that's bigger than this space right here. So we all know the size of change rooms. So this is, pretty big. So we felt, given what the intent behind the application was, that that was an adequate size space to keep this use small in scale and meant as what they were asking for. From a building perspective, there is some building code requirements that will require fire walls if between the shop area and the change room area. And my understanding also is that the shop area, the area that's going to be used for the change room space cannot be then used for farm equipment space in the off season. It doesn't meet the code requirements to do that. So, but that's a separate matter under the building code that really doesn't play into the size. The size is more about land use and what's the intent behind this use on this property. It's a small scale rink for a few games a week, not an arena.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from council, questions? Councilor Martin, Tamlin?
So if I can see you want to monopolize, the efficiency of building something, right? And the amount of use it gets over the year as well. But then to have an extra building as a shop, then wouldn't that be a separate application, or would have been the original application and then an addition of a changing room space, isn't it? So it is, from my understanding, it was to build a changing room, and now it's like, can we extend that and I can use it for farm stuff? So if it's going to be mostly used as a shop, then that would be the application, wouldn't it? Just to clarify.
Through you, Mayor, it's a farm, so they can have a shop right now anyways, as part of the farm operation. They don't need an application other than a building permit for that.
So what you're saying, Linda, is if they want to build a shop and attach there to the change room, they can do that. But they would be under, like I said, a firewall possibly and everything else.
That's right.
Okay. Any further questions, comments from council then? Any direction, Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I haven't really heard. So to go from 1,100 to 2,000 square feet. Outside of, flexibility, kind of for moving forward. I guess where we come from, a lot of times when there's too much flexibility, ends up biting us in the butt down the road. Where other use, not to say you're gonna do it, but, possibly introducing other types of uses that it's not really intended for. So like, if you think 1,100 square feet is adequate for what you anticipate the use for, I'm happy to stick with 1,100. If you've got, not a business, you don't need a business case for this, but a good rationale to extend it to 2,000, I think I'd be happy to hear it. Otherwise, I'm probably okay to leave it where it lands. That's just kind of my opinion on it, but
Did you have any other items you were going to be putting in? Like you got the 2 change rooms and washroom. Was there anything else you were trying to add into this building?
No, as far as it comes kind of down to the fact that of the amount of money we're spending. And we were just thinking that if we're gonna put a permanent wall through anyway, we're gonna stretch it now if we can. If we can stay with the 1,100 square feet, which I'm okay with. And just wondering if that'd be okay, then if we could just put that as an egg zone shop, I guess, so to speak. And then when this thing grows down the road, we could make a separate building if you so require.
Through you, Mayor, my understanding is the change room can be built together with the egg shop, but a firewall has to be constructed to separate the farm shop area from the change room area, but it can go under one building.
And the change room is a different zoning?
It's just
Okay.
the way it's constructed because it's utilized. There's more protection required.
For people.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from council? Councilor Martin?
so for my interest then, off-season usage when the ring's not going, like, do we just look at use it for what you're gonna use it for and it's fine, or
Did
I'm
you have
assuming-
ideas what you want it for, use it for in the off season? If you were just at 1,100. And there are change rooms and washrooms, what would you use that 1,100 for, off season?
Well, just to throw a number at you, I just quoted a shop and we're roughly about 100 square feet. It costs about $100 a square foot to build this thing. So as far as the code goes, a public occupancy, we can't put an overhead door area in this 1,100 square foot area. So it's roughly 100 grand sitting there all summer when we're using it for 30 hours out of the year, so to speak. If there could be a bit of negotiation there, just asking.
Totally understand the reasonings you're behind it, but would you be using that space for anything in the summertime besides it sitting there? Would you, could you do ball hockey or anything like that in the summer?
Well, that comes back to the planning discussion. We're not supposed to do anything there besides play hockey, so I don't know, I'd probably just use it as a shop if I could. As far as anything else, 1,100 square feet, you really can't play anything in it besides it's not big enough for a volleyball court or nothing, so probably would just be
But I meant
empty.
ball hockey, I meant to still use it as a change room where the
Oh.
outdoor rink become the ball hockey rink.
Yeah, sure, we could do that. I don't know. I haven't thought that far.
Okay.
The summers for work and winters for playing hockey.
Gotcha. I tend to go with Mr. Martin and just leave it at 1,100 square feet myself. Anybody wishing to speak differently on council? Okay, thank you very much. So the resolution moved by Council Reed, second by Council Martin, the Township of Mapleton Council received for information planning report for zoning applications ZBA 2023-05. 7937 Wellington Road 8, and further that council consider the attached draft bylaw to allow a permanent seasonal ice rink on the subject lands, subject to conditions stated in the bylaw. Any further comments, questions? All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item 10.1. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reed, that bylaw number 2023-045 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2010-080, being a zoning bylaw for the township of Mapleton, be hereby read a first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the corporate seal. Any comments? All in favor? Item 10.2, moved by Councillor Reed, second by Councillor Martin, that bylaw 2023-046 being a bylaw to appoint an interim fire chief for the corporation of the township of Mapleton, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 8th day of August 2023. Any comments, questions from council members? Mr. Big Rig has started. He has chatted with the two deputy chiefs. He then had a conversation with Mr. Barron and then myself. And I believe, Mr. Barron, did he speak to the entire fire crew yet? This week. The officers this week. So he's making his rounds, introducing himself to everyone and laying out what his expectations are for the next 6 or so months. Any questions or comments from council? What's that? Yeah, he's just away right now, so he couldn't make it tonight. But he will come to address council. And I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Number 11 is correspondence with council direction. We have none. There's number 12, council's information. There's 3 items there. Anybody wish to speak to any of those 3 items? Moving on to item number 13, is there any notice of motion then? No notice of provision. Wait, sorry, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Yeah, I've got a verbal notice of motion. I'll provide a copy to the clerk here in a moment. So the notice of motion is that the Township of Mapleton Council repeal or cancel the Township of Mapleton policy that dictates the annual staff wage increase as per COLA of a specific month, and further that wage increases be proposed and discussed publicly during the annual budget process.
Thank you. That will be brought up in September's meeting. And you'll provide the clerk with a copy of that, correct?
Coming right up.
Thank you. So that'll be on the next agenda. Any other notices of motion before I move on? Okay, no notice of provision. Item 14.1. Sale of surplus land, 41 Adam Brown Street. That's a notice of provision, Mr. Clerk. Thank you. And that was in the Wellington Advertiser. That's in our agenda. Item number 15, other business. Do we have anything from anybody? Councillor Ottens?
We're having our annual Sunflower Day again on Saturday, August 19. It was touch and go there for a bit. Sunflowers are not the best this year, but to us, it's part of demonstrating the realities of farming and agriculture, that everything's not always going to be hunky dory, but they're there, some of them. And we do have some new things this year. We have the coffee truck and Mapleton Organic and a cornhole tournament and yoga in the field. So it's Saturday, August 19. You don't have to sign up in advance. You can just show up in the day. So, and all money raised goes to Palmerston Hospital.
Very good cause. And yeah, sunflowers won't do well. There's not enough sun. Right? Cried for, yeah, moisture. Sunflower seeds out, don't they roast them anyway? You start eating them at that point. Anything else, other business? We do have, as Councilor Martin pointed out, the fair is this weekend, and I know the fair is still looking for some volunteers. If anybody is listening out there, they're looking for volunteers to do setup, and they're also looking for volunteers for traffic parking or at the gate. Anything further? All right. And then we will move into a closed session. for this following subject matters. Hang on tight. While I get that up here. The Township of Mapleton, this is moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Reed. The Township of Mapleton Council move into a closed session to consider the following subject matters. Review and adoption of closed session minutes, July 11, 2023, employee negotiations and labor relations. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. We will take a 10-minute recess and reconvene in the boardroom.